Welcome back to the ever so serious Pastor Mark.
I can do this. I can do this.
You can't do it for anything in the world. But I'm Andy. He is. You just left at the Andy.
I'm trying to keep myself.
We resemble the two grouchy,
grumpy old men.
Right on the Muppet Show. That are constantly,
it doesn't work. I don't know that I can be a grumpy.
Constantly evaluating.
Ask my wife. I can be a grumpy old man. Sometimes.
I am. Sometimes I'm just grumpy, grouchy, cantankerous, and tired of people. That is not today, though.
Not today.
We are in Acts chapter 23. Last week we talked about doing things to the best of our ability
and encouraging others to do the same.
But before we were starting that, and I was so focused on what I wanted that I ran over what you said, and you didn't even have to call me out. The Holy Spirit just convicted me, like, hey, this is important. So there, in verse 1, there's a little phrase that starts that out, and you said that phrase was...
looked straight at the Sanhedrin.
Okay. This is an amazing thing, right? This whole looking at who you're talking to, this used to be a huge thing in school when you took public speaking or speech class or, all of those kind of things, right? But it is a very lost art. We live in a culture today where we don't have to look people in the eye, right? You and I have small enough congregations that if we want to do that on a Sunday morning, we can pick people out and we can look at them. But we've spoken to the sea of people where you can't do that. It drives me crazy. I like to make eye contact. But when we're
or you project to the third balcony where no one's sitting, but it looks like you're preaching to a big group of people.
Pretend that everybody is nice. And they're not looking at you with notebooks trying to figure out how they can get you.
Yeah. This
little phrase is important, right? Why is it important to look people in the eyes? Why is it people to look straight at them? Why is it important for us to actually engage people?
And what's respectful, number one.
What do you mean?
It shows value. It shows that you value that person. It also shows confidence in yourself. So he looks them straight at you can say what Paul said without looking straight at the Sanhedrin. But there is a statement being made when you look someone in the eye. It's a statement about them. It's a statement about you. It's a statement about God. If you don't look someone in the eye, it questions your integrity as well.
Right. It questions how much you care about them.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like there are several examples where the disciples actually said, "Hey, look at us.
Yes.
We're talking to you."
Yeah.
Right. There are examples
and take this in. What I'm saying to you, you better listen to.
So how
credibility? It adds credibility.
So we want people to listen to us and what we have to say, but we're not valuing them enough to really look at them. We live in a very distractible world today, right? You're talking to somebody all the time. Our cell phones go off nonstop with people who need us, right? It is hard. I've gotten to the point now where when I'm in meetings, certain meetings stuff, I actually take my phone, put it on silent, and put it in my coat. It is not a distraction.
I had my barber ask me one time, my phone went off, it was in my coat. She goes, "Do you need to take that?" I said, "Absolutely not."
Yeah.
I said, "This is your time, and I'm not going to be on the phone while you're cutting my hair because I don't want you to mess up with it. Can you imagine my phone? I'd have like a big wad over here or something,
Well, and I love that.
Like, but it's her. It was her time now. I got a guy barber. No, it's his time. And so it's like, no, I need to let you. That's disrespectful.
Yeah. So speaking of the whole disrespectful thing, right? We get into the meat of this little tiny section, right? Why don't you reread 1 through 5 for everybody so they can know what we're talking about?
Paul looked straight at the Sanhedrin and said, "My brothers, I have fulfilled my duty to God in all good conscience to this day. At this, the high priest Ananias ordered those standing near Paul to strike him on the mouth. Then Paul said to him, 'God will strike you, you whitewashed wall. You sit there to judge me according to the law, yet you yourself violate the law by commanding that I be struck.' Those who were standing near Paul said, 'You dare to insult God's high priest?' Paul replied, 'Brothers, I did not realize that he was the high priest. For it is written, do not speak evil about the ruler of your people.'"
All right, so I read this again, right? And I was struck with what you said to me earlier, right? We we live in a culture where we think that as long as we believe that something is truth, we can say it to whoever, however, whenever, whatever. We just get to say it. Right? We live in a culture that as long as it's truth, it doesn't matter. We just get to say it. I've said for years that truth without love, it's brutality. You're just handing somebody, right, this statement, and you're not caring at all about the person, right? I like to believe that when Jesus talked to the Samaritan woman, right? He says to her, yeah, I know, you got 5 husbands, right? You've had 5 husbands, and the one guy you're with isn't your husband, right? But how he said that to her was in such a way that it wasn't condemning in nature. It was truthful. I'm just telling you the truth. But he did it in a way where it was compassionate in nature, right? When he's talking to the woman caught in adultery, he didn't mince words. Go and sin no more, right? Don't do this anymore. But he did it in such a way that there was compassion with this whole thing, right? So again, this moment, right, is about Paul reacting to getting slapped, and he just reacts and says, "Hey, right, you're going to be in deep trouble for that."
You whitewashed wall.
That's and adds one of those bad words to it, right? I can never say the word. He adds something to it. But when we look at this, he then, when he's reminded of who he's talking to, that in certain moments we need to have respect for who we're talking to, regardless of what we're talking about, regardless of what they've done to us, right? We've done to that. There has to be this understanding the moment. It's not simply about just presenting truth. It's about understanding the moment with which this truth is being presented. Does that make sense? Okay. So
You can respect the office without necessarily respecting the person.
So
Is that a true statement?
yes, we talk about it all the time with the presidency, right? I need to, you are my president, whether or not I like it or not, if I'm living in this country and I'm a citizen of this country, and I don't have to like it, but you are my president. I don't like it when people say, you aren't my president.
Yeah,
Right.
he is.
So I agree with you. Yes, got to respect the office. How do we do that in modern Christianity today? How do we go into our pastor's office and respectfully disagree with him? How do we, as a pastor, call people into our office and respectfully disagree with them? We have this, by the way, almost every Thursday down here in some way, shape, or form, because we have different ideas, different thoughts, different ways of looking at things, and we respectfully, most of the time, respectfully disagree with each other.
Well, one of the things we don't do, and you shouldn't do, is attack the person.
So
The
you
person and the-
white tomb probably not.
Yeah, he got a little carried away. But so did, there was a lot of energy in this room. And even Ananias lost it,
Yep.
you know. And that happens. The right thing to do, which what Paul did, I didn't realize. He owned it. Ananias did. And Ananias, to our knowledge, and he might deal with it later, but Ananias did say, oh, well, you're right, I shouldn't have done that.
Yep.
But one of the things is you may not agree with the idea, you may not even like the person, which Scripture doesn't tell us we have to like everybody, we do have to love them, but when we can value the person, and sometimes that is hard, because you look and you say, other than their breathing, it's pretty hard for me to value. I mean, let's just face it. There are some people that they require extra grace. And that is probably all of us at some point.
Absolutely.
I need people to have grace. I want grace, but I don't want anybody to I don't want to have to give grace. That's how usually we approach it. But when we can realize, number one, we have to also know what the word says. That does say that we have to respect them. I don't agree with you. I don't even like you, but I will listen to your opinion. And it doesn't mean I have to agree with you if I listen to your opinion. And it doesn't mean that I don't like you if I don't agree with your opinion. I just don't agree with your opinion.
So again, how do we? Because I love what you said. This is an emotionally charged room, right? We've been there.
Yeah.
We've been in meetings that start. I've been in meetings from minute one. You knew exactly where the meeting was going to go, and you're just waiting for the moment, right? But the gas smell is in the room. You're waiting for who's going to hit the lighter, right?
Right.
But how do we, in emotionally charged moments, how do we avoid getting sucked into the natural emotionalism of a moment and cross the lines?
Well, in those situations, I think it's very, very important to call upon the Lord to help you.
Amen.
It sounds like, I don't mean that to be a cliche or a Christian platitude, but there are situations where you just got to say, God, I am going to really need your help right now because, I could really call down fire from heaven. And that is not what you want me to do. Help me be the godly man you want me to be.
Love that.
And show me how to do that and give me the strength to do it. Do it for me because I don't know. I cannot do it on my own. I know I can't. And we may have to pull ourselves out of the situation and say, you know what, this is not a good time for me to be having this conversation. And that's perfectly fine to do that. Sometimes we don't have that luxury. But there are certainly times that we have to be able to say, and sometimes, you're getting new age now. Sometimes it's breathing, breath prayers, breathing in, Lord Jesus, Son of David, breathing out, have mercy on me. It's also, I think, do unto others as you want to do. How do I want to be treated? I was reading about that Romans 13 this week. People have different ideas spiritually. We talked about it last time. Yeah. We don't always agree down here, but yet we have the respect for each other to say, okay, there's a phrase that I often teach people. I'll teach it to you. I won't charge you this time. I acknowledge your position, and I promise to weigh it carefully before taking any action. Now, you can say that in any way. That might be,
I heard you.
I heard you. I heard you. It doesn't mean I agree with you. It doesn't mean I'm going to do anything about it, and that you don't have to say them in the back. I hear you. I hear you. Another one I use is, how interesting. How interesting. Am I saying I agree with you? No. Am I saying I disagree with you? No. I'm saying how interesting. Also, what helps is what I call the 9-second pause. For some reason, we always think if someone asks us a question, I do it on here when you ask me, a question. I'm thinking about it. Doesn't mean it's not disrespect. It's like I want to think about my answer.
So people don't, most of the people listening forget. We don't rehearse this, nor do I tell you.
No, I get blindsided every week.
Right?
Not that it bothers me.
So the 9-second rule is actually pretty gracious to us because he's just hearing it for the first time, right? And he's got to, not only do you, in a moment, you have to attempt to understand what I'm asking and then figure out how you're going to answer it, right? I think that there is great value in understanding those two things. I've sat in meetings before where spiritual timeouts have actually been called.
Yes, yeah.
Right? I've sat in a meeting where somebody's like, I think we need to understand the question and then be able to figure out how we would respond.
And isn't that more respectful when you ask me a question and I just don't fire off an answer, but I give it thought. If I'm thinking about what you asked me, or anybody asked me, that means I'm giving it thought. Most of us are not listening to respond. We're listening to react. And
we're formulating our. That's why it's very convenient for the church to give us a whole bunch of Sunday school answers. Right. Because we just can go to that. But when I have to actually formulate an answer.
Well, and then the question, and you do it a lot by a lot of people that say, right. So he's talking this, right? I hate that, by the way.
So
but you do it just. It's either
I
that or you're putting me in a barrel and running swords through me. So,
that is true.
But or people ask, or I love this one. Don't you agree though that? And no, I don't.
See again,
I can also it's sometimes it's better to say no and come back and say yes than it is to say yes and come back and say no.
So I love that. I love that concept, right? Because again, when I say right, I am actually asking
torturing
that question, right? It just said like, hey, do you
just
agree?
did it now, right? You just did
but Right, but okay, I'm done with that. The idea of giving people permission to respond, right, is important.
Yes, it is.
Great. Let me get to the spiritual timeout.
Yes.
In Christianity,
Mm-hmm.
are there moments? Are there moments when it behooves all of us, right? So again, if I'm watching this video
Mm-hmm.
and I all of a sudden reach a point where I disagree or I haven't thought about what somebody is saying, is it okay to hit the pause button and say, I don't have to watch the whole thing
Absolutely.
in order to like stop right here, take a moment
Yeah.
and recalibrate? Because I think what happens a lot of times is that people sit in a meeting and the second they get triggered to disagree, they're
Yeah.
stuck there.
Yeah. Yeah. When you said that with pause button, I was thinking about that. You took my example. Think about it when you're on the thing. It's okay to say, you know what? I need to go for a walk. I need to walk and I need to think about this.
So how would that go over? If you were sitting at your church board meeting and it got a little emotionally charged, right? A little rambunctiousness hit the room. Would it be okay for somebody to say, I'm sorry guys, I just need a moment to wrap my head around this? Would that be acceptable in that emotional moment because I think people think it's a great idea on paper,
Mm-hmm.
but when I'm arguing with somebody, it might make me more upset for them to say, I need a break.
It could, but if you need to take care of yourself
Mm-hmm.
to do that, I think it's perfectly fine. If someone doesn't like it, that's not necessarily your fault or your problem. You're gonna have to please excuse me, however you want to put it. I need to take a walk.
Yeah. So somehow within Christianity, part of having respect is being able to put all this together,
Mm-hmm.
right? And saying, I need to be able to understand a moment.
Mm-hmm.
I need to recognize the authority in a moment. I need to understand that when I say, hey, Pastor Mark, can I come talk to you, right? I need to
Yes.
be able to come into that room and I need to understand your authority.
Mm-hmm.
I need to understand your position in office. But at the same time, I need to be able to say
Yes.
what I need to say. But much like on this show, if I walk into your office and I hit you with a bombshell, I also might need to be prepared for you to say, I'm going to need a minute.
Yeah, and also there's a piece of, I used to do a little bit of, wasn't certified in doing the DISC profile, behavioral profile, but I worked for an organization. We would let them take the test, and then I would do a little bit of teaching with it. And one of the things that we would often talk about is, once I figured out, okay, this is my behavioral type, and so and I would always explain, it isn't just for you to understand yourself.
Right.
It's for you to understand someone else. So I worked with this organization, and the director was decisive. He was a D. I don't want to know what anybody's feeling. I don't want a lot of details. Tell me what I need to know. Be
Yep.
direct. Now, I'm party animal.
That
you know?
would not go well with me.
Yeah. So I had to learn, okay, this isn't about me. He doesn't want to know what I'm feeling or what other people are feeling. If I want to communicate with him, I got to put that aside and just be able to and say, here's what you need to know. Now, his wife was a C. It was all about correctness, and she wanted as much information as possible. Drove me up a wall. But I knew if I wanted to communicate with her, I had to pull up my C, which was in the basement, is how I always put it on the chart. I was in the basement. I had to pull it up and say, I need to get as much information for her, and I would try to think, what questions is she going to have?
Yeah. Yep.
Now, does that mean I robbed myself or I was not true to myself? Not at all. Not at all, because as a high I care about people.
Right.
I wanted to communicate with her. I wanted to communicate with him. And so for me to do so effectively, I had to say, I'm going to have and it showed respect because it said, I respect you enough that I'm going to try and communicate with you in a way that is effective for you. Not everybody wants to do that.
Mm-hmm.
This is how I communicate. You just have to deal with it. And that nothing says, I respect you, like, deal with it.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, it just, nothing says I don't care about you. And when I can understand that about a person, it doesn't take long to figure that out, by the way.
Nope.
You can then say, okay, this is why maybe they're also responding the way. It's not that they're against my idea. The one person, they need more information.
Yep.
Another person, they're overwhelmed because I told them too much about how I felt about it. They didn't care. Okay, that's on them, but I have my responsibility to say, okay, I need to understand, it doesn't mean they don't care. Maybe it does, maybe they don't care. I don't know. I'm not going to read their mind. But also enough to say when it comes to respecting that authority, which is something we lack today, we teach people how we want to be treated.
Yep.
And so many, and one of the ways we do that is we say what we want. We
Yep.
ask for what we want. We may not get it, but we still ask what we want. But also enough to say, you do not talk to me that way.
Yeah.
I will not respond to you when you can calm down. Then we can have it. That's a parenting thing too, I'm sure. You know, when my wife and I are in the heat, she would walk in the door. I'd have something on my mind. I needed to get it out, and I would vomit all over it. And it would not work out well because she wasn't ready to hear it. I had to learn. Wait a half an hour. Then, when you're ready, I need to talk to you about something. When you're ready, that's respect. It's about respect, and I can respect you when I respect myself. Most of the time, I think many people don't respect themselves.
I love that. I think the last part about this section that I would point out is sometimes in this whole area, we need the other people to say, hey, you're not being respectful.
Yes.
Right? Like
yes.
Here, the other people are the ones that look upon and said, do you know who you're talking to? Right?
Yes. And so we need community around us
sometimes
to help us.
Right. Sometimes in these meetings, we need somebody who is willing to say, hey, wait a second. Do you understand this moment, right?
Yeah.
You can be passionate about this, and you can be upset about this. You can do whatever you want in this stuff. But we're not going to sit there and allow you to treat somebody else this way.
Yes, right.
I love that. All right, well, we have given you way more than you could possibly chew on.
So hit the pause button.
That's right.
And work through it.
Go back.
Yes.
Go back, figure it out. Let us know, because we would love for you to tell us.
Yes.
We'll see you next time right here on Counterculture.
Grace and peace.